I have chosen to be living with cancer. I have not chosen to be dying from cancer. I've chosen to be alive fully as much as possible each and every day. I've chosen not to say words like fighting cancer, in a battle, survival, those types of words. I've chosen a life of a positive mindset. I've chosen a life of mindfulness, of meditation, of visualization, all in an effort to have a positive go-forward approach. But I've married that and I've welded that with a belief system around science. I think science is integral, and I've given everything to science in partnership with my mindset. And so I think what has happened to me along the way is that I started to get a better understanding of how the combination of the two really work together. And I really truly understand now and believe that I've extended my life beyond what I was given by science simply because of my positive attitude, simply because of my mindset and what I believe to be what works for me. And this is what works for me. And I'm trying to share what works for me. You have to interpret it in the way that it works for you. But the objective of extending my life is almost secondary to the objective of making sure and ensuring that each day is a full day. Each day, to the best of my ability, I'm living a full life, a life of purpose, a life of sharing, a life of meaning. And it's a paradigm between quantity versus quality, because it's not so awesome if you don't have quality. And so extending it, while a noble goal, which I am chasing daily, is secondary to making sure that each day matters. And so I was always a positive guy. I was always an open book. I was always into sharing and gathering people. That was my nature. So I was lucky to get to this point. But there was a moment, a specific exact moment, where I can tell you when I went from here up to here in terms of belief in this process. Maybe give you a backstory. 5 years ago, I had a baseball-sized tumor on my kidney. We had surgery, had that removed. And then the protocol from that point on is every 6 months you have a CAT scan. And around the third CAT scan, or at the third CAT scan, my wife and I went into the oncologist's office to see the results of our scan, and you could tell something was different because everybody was looking at their shoes. And the news was bad. It was a very difficult day. We were told that there was 15 lesions, tumors in the lungs, the cancer was back, and that the prognosis they gave was like you have a year or so to live. And it's devastating. It rocks your world. The whole day, Tracy and I spent talking, hugging, kissing, thinking, going down this new world that we had. And I found us sitting on our bed later on in the afternoon, and I got a text. Now, normally in a situation like this, you would not pick up your phone and look at it. But something compelled me to take a look at this text. And what was on that text changed everything. It's a text from my friend Avnish, whose family generationally have been doing mindfulness and meditation. And can you imagine when somebody says, I brought you into a healing exercise, saw some shadowing around your lungs. Imagine you've just come from science, and they've said you've got, that day, that you've got metastases in your lungs. And you come home and you get this text. a big pile of decisions have to happen at that moment. Before Avnish sent it, he had to know that I was open to receiving it and that I would accept it. And receiving it, I had to go a journey and accept that this was more than just a coincidence. And in that moment, and again, I've had a belief system of connectivity my whole life. But in that moment, I realized that the energy that's between us was strong. And from that point on, I knew that I had to do something. So I started meditating. I started being much more mindful. Trace and I went to mindfulness classes. I went to Qigong. I meditate every day. And all sorts of great things have come from it, a calmness, etc. But about 16 months ago, I started getting into a lot of trouble physically. And the tumor on my pancreas was causing lots of surgeries and lots of scary moments. So I thought I would get into visualization. So I had my neighbor, a radiologist, take my scan and put it over top of the body so that I could visualize exactly where the tumor was. And the tumor is the inside of those reds. The lines are stents that are in from my bile and pancreatic duct. I started visualizing because I knew I had to start understanding and going right after the pancreas, because as my oncologist said, if there's one thing that's going to get you, it will be your pancreas. So I put all in, started about 9 months ago, I started this serious case of visualization. And it's about to get weird here, folks. So half the science people are going to be weird for a while, and then the other people are going to be weird in the second half. But I'm visualizing, and I go down there and I do some work on my pancreas. One day, I don't know if I was angry that day or whatever, but I had a lightsaber and I was slicing up the pancreas as much as the tumor in the pancreas. And I thought, for a guy that says he's living with cancer, not fighting cancer, that just didn't fit my narrative. So I had a chat with Avnish, and we talked. Avnish's spiritual animal is a buffalo. So he said, well, maybe you should send some baby buffaloes in to trample on the tumor. And I said, okay, well, let's give that a shot. Again, I'm sorry for this. So here we are. I've got a herd of, it just seems weird saying it, sorry. I've got a herd of buffalo going up to my tumor, and all of a sudden, for the very first time in many months, and it took me a long time to get to this, folks, I didn't just jump into being able to visualize a tumor on my pancreas. I've been working hard for a long time to get to this point. But I get to the tumor, and the tumor is now up like a mushroom, and it has never been like that in any other times I visited it. And so I have a whole bunch of other conversations around why that may have happened, but I'll be easily distracted if I start going down those stories. Obviously, the buffalo couldn't get up on the tumor. And this is the weirdest part. This is the part my wife said, don't talk about, but I get such a kick out of it that I have to. My spirit animal, as declared by my wife, is a goddamn magical unicorn. Because I somehow keep seeming to come back. And lo and behold, these unicorns pick up the buffaloes and put them on the tumor. All right, I'm going to stop there. I believe in this completely, the visualization. My creative brain maybe took a little fire this time, but I'm indoctrinated into it. But it's the balance that matters. The balance is I can take that spiritual side and put 100% belief in modern science. I believe in medicine and all the things that are happening. We've got this Tom Baker Cancer Center, world class, and I am all in on that. And the balance between the two is what allows me, science and spirituality sometimes don't play well together, but I've found a great balance for it. The challenge, well, it's not a challenge. The part that makes the most sense to me is when you get told you have terminal cancer and you tell people everybody has an aunt or coworker, vitamin B or vitamin C, Phoenix tears, pH balance, it's a litany of things that somebody was cured by. And I had to be as intentional not to pick that as it was to pick science and spiritual energy. So, because by chasing that, it threw me off. So now I am fully ensconced in the balance between those two. And what that has allowed me is incredible freedom to be able to do the sharing, to be able to do, I actually should show this picture here. Somebody's daughter drew me some unicorns carrying buffaloes. I forgot all about my slides. So what it's allowed me to do is spend my time, instead of worrying about those things, I can spend my time sharing my journey. As Tim said, I believe that we have a hard time looking at death and dying and disease. We need to talk about it more. We need to share it more. And so I've taken a personal challenge to try and have as many conversations with people about this, because I believe the more we talk about it, the more we share it, the more we actually do it together, the better off we all collectively are, and better off you are as an individual. So in my blog, I've probably done about 240 different blog posts. I tell the good, the bad, the ugly, and that's just one piece. I've got a bunch of big projects I'm trying to do from a legacy perspective, and I've also got even more powerfully an understanding that science is like the hull of the boat, and my mindfulness is the wind that keeps the boat moving forward. And that's where all my energy is going to now, is allowing science to do its part and me to keep the sail full. And the sail gets full. Like when you have terminal cancer, you strip away a lot of that stuff that you used to chase. Bigger house, nicer job, better car. And you start realizing the important things are simply holding your wife's hand, giving your daughter a solid hug, having an interesting conversation with your teenage son. That's what fills your sail. And then you start realizing that all the people that are around you, you could be helping them individually. So I go for, like Tim said, walks with Jim. And I have a different person every day that I try and go for a walk with, and we try and help them. And I get so much. The joy I get from that is probably more than they get from their time with me. I have 2 weekly walks. One was the gentleman that's got a neurological disorder. His Parkinson's has been deteriorating. We get to have really deep, meaningful conversations. Love those. Critical for both of us, and it shows you the shared energy. And then I have another walk with a 20-year-old lad that went off to university. He felt alone, didn't have anybody to talk to, had a negative feedback loop on his failures, and had a major depressive episode. Fortunately, he survived it, and we've been going for walks. And in that walk, he said to me last week, he said, do you know, 2 weeks ago, I had a lateness of being that I felt like my voice could finally be heard, and that I mattered and I counted, so thank you for mentoring Mr. Button. And I said, no, this is both of us. You and I are shared in this experience. For 3 months ago, you asked me a question. And as we were walking, I was talking about mindset. He turned to me and he says, do you really think, in an incredulous voice of a 20-year-old male, do you really think that you, through your mindset, are able to control your cancer? And I said, not only do I believe that I'm affecting it, I believe it's the only thing. Because it's your perspective on how you approach these scenarios that allow you to live a life of openness, sharing, purpose-driven, and an opportunity to be able to make a change that gives you a reason to keep going forward. It gives you the energy that comes back into you. And so my hope for each and every one of you is that you don't wait till a catastrophic moment. I don't believe I waited, but I can certainly tell you I went from here to here because of a catastrophic moment. I hope that your lesson that you're catching from quite a few of the people today is that mindset, that spiritual energy, that positive attitude, it counts for a lot. And if you're really looking for incentive, I'd suggest you find a picture like this, because this is what really is my incentive. I really appreciate your time. Thank you for your energy. Cheers. All right.